very good evening to you. I am Lisa Lord, and my special guest is a business magnate who is very well known here in Barbados and far beyond these shores, as well as the founder and chairman of Williams Industries, Inc., the most Honourable Ralph Williams, more affectionately known as Bizzy. Mr. Williams, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, let's start from the very beginning. You come from a family of entrepreneurs. Your father, your late brother, Sir Charles. Let's go back more than 50 years ago, before there was a Williams Industries. How did you get started?
Well, the first little business was started because a field of canes at Foster Hall, right, St. Joseph, washed away and took with it the road, the government road. So all traffic had to come through our yard. My father had not long borrowed money and bought Foster Hall Plantation, because when I was born in Barbados, our family didn't own any land at all. So, and I was born just up the road from here, from King Edge Hill. So all the traffic had to come through our yard. So my father came up with the idea of putting a pole on each side of the road with a swing bar, and I was the man who had to man the swing bar. I was a boy at the time, young boy. So everybody that passed had to give me a shilling to swing the bar, and that was the first little business. So I would get a lot of cussing and earn a shilling.
So how did we move from that swing bar and paying this toll, more or less, to this regional conglomerate?
Well, I got my first job at Emptage Electrical, and I was assigned there as a graduate engineer to maintaining sugar factories, which I didn't know a thing about, but I was able to figure it out, and get through. And from there, I got the job as the chief engineer at the West India Biscuit Company with Mr. Ted Hode, who was the general manager at the time. And I was a graduate engineer, electrical engineer. So Sir Kenneth Hunt, who was not Sir Kenneth at the time, he was the managing director. And they were about to move Courtesy Garage from Bridgetown to where it is at Wildy. And they got very high price for the electrical installation. And Mr. Hunt asked me if I could redesign it and save them money, which I had previously, when I was at Emptage Electrical, hired this young man here, Victor Hewitt, as an apprentice electrician at 12 cents an hour. Yeah. And so I figured to myself, I redid the design, came up with a lot better price, but then Mr. Hunt wanted to know if I could handle the electrical. So I got hold of him, and we started a little business doing electrical contracting. That was our first big job. And then my brother offered me the job to manage his workshop. So I told him I could come, but I would have to bring our little business, Victor's and mine, and be able to continue it while I was managing his workshop, because managing his workshop would not have been a full-time job for me. So that's how it happened. And shortly after I got there, and his financial controller, Mickey Hutchinson, he observed how we were working and we were making good money. So he came into the office and said, no, this can't continue, because you now have to, this is not in the Articles of Association of C.O. Williams Construction. So let's start another company. Of course, he got shares in a new company. My brother got shares, I got shares, and Victor got 25% of the new company. which was C.O. Williams Electrical. And the reason we named it C.O. Williams Electrical was because my brother was already in the construction industry, and he was well known for getting things done. So that's how it started. C.O. Williams Electrical was a partnership with Victor, Mickey Hutchinson, my brother, Sir Coe, and the first employee was a man called Bill Gill, who was also my brother's first manager. My brother got a job at Brighton Dairy, and Bill Gill was the general manager. So that's how and Bill was out of work, so my brother asked me if I would give him a job. So he was the first employee, because he knew about bookkeeping and that sort of thing. And our second employee was Linda Springer, who she never had another job in her life. She only worked here. Most people, once they come, they don't leave.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because you have a very unique business model here at Williams Industries. Before we go into looking at the respective companies, your business model is one that is admired by many. You have just over 800 employees and
Here in Barbados.
Here in Barbados, and just over 600 are shareholders. Tell me about this model that you've adopted.
It's very simple. As I became aware of people working for the whole life for companies, and when they're leaving, they're getting a watch
or a plaque,
showing them their appreciation. So I thought to myself, this is not how I would like to reward people who have served any business that I was fortunate enough to own or control. So I set up a system along with, Leonard Payne. I have to mention these the people that really helped me. Leonard came. His wife Jocelyn Payne was our bank manager, and that's how he came to work with us. Because I told her, look, we need a good accountant, and she said, well, why don't I interview Leonard, her husband? And so he came and joined us, and we put together this plan together. We couldn't give people shares for good performance, because it would be judgmental. So we came up with the thing that no matter how good or bad a performer you are, you can get shares at 10 years. You can get 1,000 shares at 10 years. At 15 years, you can get more shares. 20 years, more shares. 25 years, more shares. And it was set up that way. And I thought to myself, I was asked how you could give people shares when you don't know if they're good performers. I said, well, if I have managers in the place, and the managers allow somebody who is not a good performer to remain for 10 years, then it's the manager's fault, not the person.
I agree.
Because I always feel that management are the weaknesses. If they're not performing, then how can you expect the employees to perform? So that's how it started. And at the same time, we allocated 25% of the profit after tax to be distributed among all the employees, and the shareholders could not draw more than 25% in dividends. So you had 50% of every cent that you made had to be reinvested to grow the company.
Now we know why it's so hard to get a job here, because nobody leaves.
No. Why leave? We have fun.
Exactly.
We have fun.
No, you also produced a booklet to guide your employees, zeroing in on some of the key elements, your personal beliefs, where you clearly highlight that no one is indispensable, the need to give people more than they expect, and if you make a lot of money, put it to use by helping others while you are still living. Why was it necessary to produce this booklet? Some of these things are things that should guide people in their daily lives generally.
I decided to write that book because the University of the West Indies called me once, about 20 years ago, and they said that they wanted me to speak to the business, what do you call them, students, about business. And I wrote that book in one night, just worked through the night. But it's been revised and updated since then. It was intended to be a one-night read. Anybody could read it for one night. And I had to put into the book what I believe in. Otherwise, the book ain't no use, you know. So that's how that book came about. The cover was different to the one there now. I took it to talk to the students like this. I printed it the night and took a whole bunch of paper to the university. And then we did the first edition, had a picture of people gathered together on the cover. And this edition, we decided, I was very proud of the Williams Industries building at Warrens. So we put that on the cover. The next one, I believe we could change the cover, but I ain't sure yet.
And in the booklet, it also looks at a code of conduct,
Yes.
which speaks for itself. And the golden rules, one that stood out for me was that a smile costs nothing.
Nothing.
That is also an issue here in Barbados from the perspective that we've always heard about poor customer service.
Yeah.
What are your views on customer service on the island?
It is much, much more expensive to win back a customer or to win a new customer than to keep one that has come to your place. So the obvious thing is, when somebody comes to your place, you got to treat them the best possible. Now, you will notice that H&B Hardware, for example, once people start shopping there, they don't shop anywhere else. You will see the managing director of H&B walking out to people's cars to help them, an old lady or something. So, big smile on his face. That's Jason Pinto. He came from scratch. He was employed there as a youngster, an apprentice, and he's worked his way up to managing director. Why? Simply because he goes the extra mile to help people, and then he does a lot of behind the scenes work so that the place is always well stocked, you know, and at the right price.
But the question specifically was whether or not you think customer service on the island is good.
No, it's not. It's not. Sometimes I get terrible service from people, and I always regret it that I even would go to the place again. Unfortunately, there are some places that are kind of monopolies, so you have to go back there. I'll tell you a little story about our thing. Up at, not far from here, we have our metal sales department in one, and structural systems down, all in the same complex. You know how many times I used to have quarreling between the metal sales department and structural systems because I never stopped customers from going from one to the other. And I would always tell them, if you want them to come back to you, instead of going back down there, then you have to give them better service. That's the way to get the people to come back. Don't tell me that the others underpricing, because we had rules. You cannot underprice the other internal companies. Just decide to give them better service and they'll come to you, because all the people, every one of our departments get a percentage of the money collected and banked every month, distributed among the department.
So they're very competitive.
So of course. But you know how I decided to do that? Because you can write any amount of bills to people, but you don't have the money.
Yeah.
And cash flow is more important than profit sometimes. So in order to encourage the people to collect the money, we pay them a percentage of money collected in bank. And how it came about, one of our senior managers was running the department, and the department was doing well on paper, but it was short of money all the time. He wasn't collecting the receivables. So we paid then a percentage of sales. So if you if you got 10% on sales and you do $1 million in sales, you get 10% of it. Right. I said we're changing that model. We're paying it in future a percentage of money collected in bank, and we're sharing it between everybody. I was asked why. I said because you selling stuff and writing on a piece of paper to the customer doesn't mean you got money in the bank. You know, the Jews don't operate so. They don't consider a sale till they got the money. So it's a little bit of a copy from the Jewish book. So the manager said to me, well, don't you realize that when you introduce the system, you're going to pay us double because you've already paid us commission on the sale, and now are you seriously going to pay us when we collect the money? I said, absolutely. We'll pay you double. Guess what happened? Within 3 months, all the money that he told us before could never be collected was collected. And that was the end of his tenure. He departed in peace after that. Because it was clear to me that he was not interested in the welfare of the shareholders of Williams Industries. He was more interested in his own welfare. So a lot of things have evolved over time.
Speaking of evolvement, let's look at the original companies within the group. You have Williams Electrical, Williams Metal, and BRC. They're well known, very well established. How are they performing?
BRC is brilliant. Has always been a very, very strong company. Yeah. Williams Metals does well. Williams Electrical is struggling at the present time. They're not as profitable as they should have been, or they should be. And we're trying to sort that out.
And just to put things in perspective, because you're talking about the Barbados market, how many countries is Williams Industries operating in?
Well, we have businesses here in St. Lucia, St. Kitts, Jamaica, and Ireland, and we're about to have one in England soon. Yeah.
Which core company, or is it several companies in England?
No, Williams Caribbean Capital was formed to develop new businesses outside of the Caribbean. And they're the ones that started the businesses in Ireland. We were fortunate to come across 2 companies in Ireland that fitted our model, which is to protect the environment and these companies were producing wrapping, packaging for food products that were all either recyclable or environmentally degradable, right? And that is when the heads of Williams Caribbean Capital reported to me on those companies, I was immediately interested because of those reasons. Protecting the environment and so on. So if you go to the supermarket now and buy Irish butter, you will find it's wrapped in our product. So we bought one of those companies, and then they negotiated to buy the other one that were competing with each other. So we put them together. They put them together, not me. I only went as the figurehead, you know. And when they got them really humming without killing each other in the market, a big American company came along and bought them both from us at 3 times the price that we paid for them. So we're out of that business, and we know they're working on reinvesting the money that we made to do the same, repeat the same thing in other areas. And one of them is a project in England.
Saint, you mentioned recycling. SBRC, Sustainable Barbados Recycling Center. Is the island doing enough in the area of recycling?
Boy, this is a difficult one. You shouldn't have asked me that. You know, we had to. Recycling does not make money. You hear everybody talking about recycling stuff. You can't make money recycling. At one stage, we used to ship to China and so on, the collected garbage and things, but the Chinese stopped receiving it. So it's difficult to sell. You can't sell it for as much as it costs you to do it, recycled products. And we don't have a big enough manufacturing industry in Barbados to deal with those things. So when the IMF came in, they slashed our rates to less than half what they were. So it's very, very difficult even to keep the processing the garbage. Fortunately, we have a very good manager or team at the recycling center. And they were able to reduce costs and so on. Of course, we had to lay off some people, which was unfortunate because I don't like laying off people. But Carol Scandalberry is the head of it, and they do a fantastic job to not lose money.
Mm-hmm. But is it an area that you can see yourself leaving?
No, I don't think we can leave it because I don't think anybody else wants it.
All right, Mr. Williams, still a lot more to discuss. Stay with us. You're watching One on One.
Tell me who a man spends his time with, and I'll tell you the type of man he is. Isn't it true that people become like the company they keep? I'm Chris Honourable, clinical psychologist and certified life coach. Where do you spend most of your time? What is your emotional space like? Do you find yourself most often among people who are negative, naysayers, doom and gloom, or fearmongers? Or do you find yourself mostly among people who are positive, optimistic, calm, collected, and reassuring, who exude confidence? What is your emotional space like? Be intentional. You are the pilot of your life.
Keep it clean, keep it green.
Barbadians, we invite you to get involved and play your part as we clean and green Barbados. Come into your community with media launches, bulk waste collection exercises, community engagement sessions, and giveaways. Get on board. Let's keep Barbados clean and green.
Beautiful, beautiful Barbados.
The Barbados Police Service is a dynamic organization which caters to the needs of all residents by providing excellent customer service within our communities. We are excited to inform you that we are recruiting new members to our ranks and welcome your participation.
We are building the Barbados Police Service within our communities. Are you smart, skillful, motivated, ambitious, reliable, and talented?
Smart to fulfill your life's dream.
Smart to chart career opportunities.
Smart to make a difference.
Smart to pursue economic sustainability.
Smart to enable change.
Smart to provide public service.
I say to you today, if you have a love for people, if you enjoy nurturing your communities and taking care of persons, then definitely the Barbados Police Service, of which I am a proud member, is the place for you. So I encourage you, lend us a hand, join us now to help keep Barbados safe.
Come join us, join me in making our country a safer Barbados.
Your place is here in the Barbados Police Service. Come, join our ranks and chart a career of economic sustainability. Make that difference as an agent of change while providing public service as you fulfill your life's dream.
Welcome back. We're chatting with the founder and chairman of Williams Industries, Inc., the most honorable Ralph Williams. Mr. Williams, before the break, we were looking at your various investments. One of the areas you have invested in heavily is that of solar energy, and we have Williams Solar as one of your core companies. I mean, it goes without saying why we should take advantage of the sun, but are we taking advantage enough?
No, definitely not. Every commercial building that is approved by the town planning department should have a condition attached to it that the roof must be covered with solar. Because in one day, in fact, much less than one day, the sun delivers more energy to planet Earth than planet Earth uses in an entire year. So once we can convert that energy to electricity, that's all we need. The question now is, how do you store the electricity for nighttime? My feeling is that we should have pump storage, which is the way that most electricity is stored worldwide. You have a big lagoon at the sea level, another big lagoon at the highest point on the island, which could be Rock Hall or up at Canefield, Highland. And you have a huge big pipe connected the two underground. We have turbines in the pipe and pumps. So you pump water from the lower lagoon to the upper lagoon during the day when the sun is shining and the wind blowing. And when the sun goes down, the water goes back down through turbines to generate electricity. It's been perfected all over the world. It's a 100-year-old technology. It is absolutely reliable, and the recycling of turbine blades and so on is not dangerous. So if we go for that method, a lot of the costs, the infrastructural costs, could be local. Earth moving, tunneling, and that sort of thing could all be done by local companies. It will create a tremendous amount of work for local companies, and the technology has been perfected in Japan, in Scotland, in many places in the world. So we don't have a recycling problem. It's 100-year-old stuff. You build it and you expect it to last a minimum of 100 years.
So why are we so far behind?
Well, I don't know if everybody is listening. We are now folk. How can I put it to you? Williams Industries took up $100,000 and started doing the investigation. My friend Andrew Hutchinson was kind enough to accept a request. He has identified the Borden River as where the big lagoon at the ground and other areas, runoff areas, where we could store the water to go in between the two. And we've identified the areas at Upper Highland and at Rock Hall. So it's the technology we believe can be implemented in Barbados, and we have just the Light and Power is now also interested in doing it. We've met with them, and Andrew Hutchinson is preparing, although he's retired too, huh? You know I'm retired.
Yes, we know.
Yeah. So Andrew is preparing a proposal for a proper feasibility study. because what we did before was just a pre-feasibility thing. And if that could be implemented, it would be a tremendous thing for Barbados, because you know Barbados is not as hilly as the other islands.
They're flat in
So,
comparison.
like in St. Lucia, it could be implemented there easily, much easier, because you have much higher elevations to work with.
Are you seeing any interest, because we're seeing a lot more solar farms popping up?
Well, not as many as I would like to have popping up.
But then that also calls for land, so you need the land to do it.
Yeah, but hold on a minute. Less than 2% of the land area of Barbados, less than 2%, will produce all the power that Barbados uses with solar. All the power. So you look around Barbados and see how much land is doing nothing. And you would still tell me that you got to take a lot of land? This is not true. The land is doing nothing. You can't get the people to do something with it. And so why not use it to produce power? Now, and I feel that every home that is being erected in Barbados should have photovoltaics on it. Why waste the sun? That's my view. And I'll tell you something else. All of the foreign exchange that is required to import the components that you need to build a solar generating station on a house, on the land, wherever, is repaid by the saving in the oil that you have to buy to generate the same amount of electricity in between 2 and 3 years. All the foreign exchange is repaid. So let's assume that corporate Barbados, let's assume that Barbados is one big business. Mm-hmm. And we go to the bank, which would be the World Bank or the IMF or something, and say, lend us enough money, about $5 billion. What we can do, we're going to move from fossil fuel energy to renewable energy. Give it to us in foreign currency, so we don't have to deplete our own foreign currency reserves. In 3 years' time, we got back all the foreign currency and repaid them from the saving in the price of oil only. So all the numbers, we've run the numbers. They're there. So it makes good common sense to do it. And I showed you this morning a little design that we did a long time ago to one of our technicians here, Richard Nurse, a house that generates all the power it needs from the sun. It's a little bit different looking.
Let's look at water. Barbados has always been listed as a water scarce country, and just over 20 years ago, Williams Industries understood the importance of having desalinated water. You entered into an arrangement with Ionics.
Let me tell you what happened. Prime Minister Owen Arthur came to the conclusion, after we had a water shortage, that the island needed to build a desalination plant. So it was put out to international tender. 7 international companies bid against us. I did not know anything about desalinating water. So what I did, I called David Staples, who is a director of Williams Industries now. He wasn't then. He was a guy that was sent here by the World Bank to advise the Barbados government on energy. I called him and said, look, David, go and find the best desalination company that you know of in the world, that you can find in the world. I also asked Steve Hobson to do the same thing. Steve Hobson came back with a company from Florida, and David Staples came back with Ionics Freshwater, not Ionics Inc., out of Boston. And we evaluated the two, and we decided to go with Ionics. We put together a joint venture, which was a model of the John Hall BRC 50-50 joint venture. I learned a lot from John Hall on doing joint ventures. And that the Americans did not want to do a 50-50 joint venture. They wanted control. They said, no, we're not doing it. It has to be, we have to agree for 50-50. So we bid on building the desalination plant. Our bid was 40% lower than the nearest other competitor. 40% lower out of 7. The highest bid was twice our price per cubic meter to deliver water to the government. But you see, we did a few things to minimize the cost of electricity. In our thing, we included energy recovery turbines on the back end of the electric motors that drive the pumps to pressurize the water. So instead of dumping the high pressure water into a well on the site, we pass it through these turbines to get back the energy, right? And then it would go down to the rum distillery, where I was a director at the time, to cool the fermentation process, which improved the efficiency of that process. And then it went out to sea with the rum distilleries outfall. So we took advantage of all the efficiencies that we could muster up. When our price was revealed to the public here, the engineering community, I got calls from some of the top engineers who were at the university with me and said, you'll never be able to do this. You're going to bankrupt yourself. Don't do it. Withdraw your tender. One of the most prominent engineers in Barbados told me, you're going to waste your family's money. We considered it, we discussed it, and we decided now we're not withdrawing our tender. And we won the contract. Within 3 years of winning the contract, because all of our accounts were open book, the Water Authority had came to the conclusion, a particular person at the Water Authority, oh, these fellas making too much money. Never mind, we bid at an international bid. We come in 40% below the nearest bidder. And now he's saying, hey, Bizzy might be getting rich. So these things, this is the kind of approach you get sometimes in Barbados, huh? You do something, you work your brain, you come up with something that works for you and for everybody else, because don't forget that every one of Williams Industries shareholders own a piece of that. And the idea, we are still producing desalinated water and delivering to the Water Authority cheaper than anywhere else in the world. But some folks would still claim that we're making too much money. But I'll tell you one thing. Williams Industries pays our taxes. We support positive initiatives all over the island. Whenever they're having a water conference and it comes to Barbados, we willingly contribute to pay the bills. It's as simple as that. And the profit that we make is reinvested right here in Barbados.
Well, over your 50 years, you've made some very good decisions. You've made good profits, but in some instances, you've also made some bad decisions. One of which, as we were speaking off camera, would have been Red Jet. Let's look back at what you were trying to do with Red Jet when it came to regional travel.
The idea of Redjet came from two Irish guys who came and proposed that we set up an airline in Barbados similar to Ryanair, which is an Irish airline, low cost stuff. So my response to them was, I don't know anything about the airline business, so I ain't doing it. And it went on for about a year. They kept after me. They said, man, this thing's going to work. This thing's going to work. I said, okay. One night on at a bar on the West Coast, I said, okay, look, just stop humbugging me, prepare a proposal, and bring it to Williams Industries board, and we'll decide. So they came to the board with a proposal. The rates that they were charging for travel in the Caribbean were ridiculously low, but they brought with them the lady that brought Virgin Atlantic to Barbados. You remember her?
No.
So once I saw her, I said, boy, these fellas, they got the best. So the board went along with going ahead and approving the thing. All right. Then the Ministry of Aviation wrote us a letter saying, and this from the government of Barbados, saying that if we register the airline in Barbados, they would get Category 1 status for Grantley Adams Airport, which was very essential. Category 1 status would allow us to fly into the United States. Without Category 1 status, you couldn't fly into any United States territory. So based on the letter that we received, we registered the airline in Barbados. Okay, good. So our most profitable route was one jet flying from here to Fort Lauderdale early in the morning, Fort Lauderdale to Port-au-Prince in Haiti, from Port-au-Prince back to Fort Lauderdale, and back to Barbados in the evening. And we had a spare jet to back it up in case anything, right. And that was the most profitable route between Port-au-Prince and America. All the higglers moving our route, and low-cost airlines what they want. So that was the basis of it. But we then, without category status, Category 1, we had to try and get approved licenses to fly to Trinidad and Guyana and St. Lucia and Jamaica and those places. Well, I'll have to tell you from the beginning, I think we went too ridiculously low on the airfares. You know, we were too low. I take full responsibility for agreeing to that. But then the permanent secretary or whoever was in charge of the Ministry of Aviation would not apply from Barbados to the other islands and Guyana for license to fly there. Because I don't know if they were trying to protect the local airline. In the case of Trinidad, they had their own airline. So they didn't want Redjet. Guyana was eventually, Guyana gave us the route right without even getting an application from Barbados, as far as I remember. So we started to fly to Guyana. And if you interview the people in St. Lawrence Gap that have bars and restaurants and so on, they will tell you that when Redjet shut down, that their business dropped to 20% of what it was. Because the Guyanese used to come over and for weekends and so on and spend the money in Barbados. So we had a lot of negative thing. Eventually, the Ministry of Finance shook my hand and agreed to help the airline because we had all these delays.
Is it an area that you would look at investing in the
No,
future?
definitely
Given the
not.
challenges that we're experiencing now.
I will not invest 1 cent in an airline again that is competing against taxpayer-funded air transport. It is impossible for the private sector to compete with taxpayers-funded private enterprise. It cannot be successful, ever, because there are no consequences for government-run companies, the heads of government-run companies, to when the companies that they're running lose money. There are no consequences. The government can't do anything with those people besides transfer them from one department to another. But if you gotta invest your money, you mortgage your house to go and invest your money in a business, and it fails, the bank coming for your house, and you gone. There are the consequences. There are the differences between private enterprise and government enterprise. One can't compete with the other.
As someone who has been in business for half a century, what is the single greatest challenge to being an entrepreneur in Barbados?
Getting people to perform, managing people, getting people to agree and work as a team together. That's the most difficult thing. I have never had problems with the banks. Very simple reason. Because I believe my parents instilled in us, but me for sure, if you borrow money, you got to pay it back. So that little book there has I think one of the chapters in there is how to deal with a banker. When you run into financial difficulties, you call your bank before you call your wife to explain what is going on. You don't run away from the bank.
What's next on the cards for you in terms of a venture that you would get involved in?
Anything that looked like it can be profitable and that I can elevate the standard of living and of whoever I'm going into business with. Anything that looked like it will work. It don't matter what it is, because we're in so many different businesses. Our corporate secretary called me recently after I decided to retire as executive chairman of Williams Industries to become non-executive chairman. So my job now is to sit at the top of the table there and keep a civil dialogue between the parties, so there's no fight, no breakout in here. So she called me to say, but so which of the things you are going to be resigning from chairing, the chairman of? I said, well, how many how many companies am I chairing now? She says 41. So I don't intend to be involved in immoral stuff and illegal stuff. But anything else that looked like it will work, I will try it. I will try it. Right now I have a little farm up and by the way, the company is run now by the directors, of course, and Andrea Walker is the CEO. Very, very bright youngster. When I say youngster, he's about 40, I think. And he, very often, I am rushing off to do something, and he don't want to, and eventually, almost all the time, he's right. Because he's a quick thinker. But maybe he don't want to build this house, for example, because he ain't sure whether we should be in the house building business. Because, you know why? Because all of the contractors in the island are our customers. Because we see ourselves as the supplier to the construction industry. So we supply everything they need, everything. So I've come up with another thing now to hopefully when we cost it out, we'll be able to do it. I want to sell the house as a kit. You come, you want to buy them houses, you got a piece of land, you can put it, come and buy a kit. We can produce all the components, everything, and sell you every single thing, every screw, every piece of wire, every bulb, everything that you need for that house, deliver it to you in a container. And you get a contractor to build it, or you build it yourself.
How far away is that idea?
But he's away now. When he comes back, we get seriously talk. Every time I ask him about it, he tells me, how much is it going to cost? What's the price? And so on. So we haven't done the detailed analysis yet. I wanted to build one as a thing and move my office out there. But he didn't want to do that. He wanted to build it in a development. But I found that if we build it in a development, I can't see how it's being done. Whereas out there, I can look through my office window and see exactly what's going on. So I know what it costs, what it can be done for, and those kind of things. So I think we need to do a lot more work to develop the kit, because it has to be hurricane proof, and it has to be it has to generate enough electricity to help pay the mortgage. It won't pay the whole mortgage, but it will contribute towards the mortgage and save you the electricity bill.
Well, Mr. Williams, thank you for taking the time out of your retirement activities, even though you're at Williams Industries every day, from what I understand. So I appreciate you taking the time to chat with us this evening.
Well, you know, my wife is now the chairman of BTMI, and I just trying to compete, that's all.
Well, we thank you very much. That was the Most Honourable Ralph Bizzy Williams, the founder and chairman of Williams Industries, Inc. I am Lisa Lord. Thank you so much for watching 101. Do have yourself a wonderful evening.